Rocky, the 1976 classic. In honor of Creed 3 coming out in March, I'm pretty sure 18th. In a very inconsistent manner of uploads, I am going to be uploading and reviewing every single Rocky and Creed movie leading up to Creed 3, starting with the 1976 classic. I said that all in one breath and I'm very proud of myself.
Congratulations.
Yes. 1. This is going to be spoiler heavy, mainly because it's a movie from 1976. If you haven't seen Rocky by now, it's your fault. 2. This is not going to be like my normal format where I do the pros and cons and then grade of a movie. I'm going to give the grade of Rocky, but because Rocky is such a classic and everyone has their own story and everyone's analyzed it to death, I'm mainly just going to talk about my experience with it. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite parts and some of my not so favorite parts of it. And 3, this is Dalton. Yeah. This is my buddy Dalton, and we've recently gotten you into Rocky, right?
I mean, I was into it, but I wasn't into it. Like, I wasn't watching all 5, and then I was mostly just a Rocky 1 guy. Same thing even with Jurassic Park, despite it being, like, my favorite movie for the longest time. I was not into 2 and 3, ironically.
But first, let's just get into just our overall stories related to Rocky. Anything you want to say?
I mean, really, I was working out. I wanted to box. Pretty much learned some of the basics after watching it. I always thought the grout fit, the original grout fit with the crew neck and sweats, unbeatable. Having known that some people we know were some of the extras that chased him later on in the next movie.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It's a local movie. It's weird to know that and to be so, yeah. Every time you go down to the art museum, there's always someone sprinting up and down the steps. They're having their Rocky moment.
Yeah, for me, my mom's side of my family was never the biggest Rocky fans. It was always my dad's side of the family. It's like a cultural thing with my dad's side of the family where everyone has their favorite Rocky movies in some particular order, and we debate it to death. For me, like, my dad showing me Rocky 1 was sort of like the cultural upstone that, like, seeing Top Gun for the first time with him was. It was like a rite of passage to have a conversation with him.
A familial entry.
Exactly. And Rocky 1 was sort of like a touchstone for one purpose for me, because I got so obsessed with the Rocky series after Rocky 1 that my initial instinct was, yeah, I want to box. This is going to be awesome. So I tried to get in shape and all that stuff. I tried to like learn some of the basics. And then I learned a very important thing.
That boxing is repetitive?
Boxing hurts. Boxing hurts.
You think he was having fun when he said cut me? Like, open my eye?
Yeah,
Like,
boxing hurts. And then I started to realize, wait, maybe it wasn't the boxing that I loved about Rocky. Maybe it's just the fact of the filming of it.
The underdog story.
Yeah.
The filming, the writing.
For me, Rocky was pretty much the first movie to really get me into really acknowledging and analyzing not just the bad parts of the film, but also just the great parts of it.
That's Jurassic Park for me, was my film. I was like, yeah, I want to make something that does this, whatever the effects were. Rocky was more like, yeah, I can run up and down the art museum steps. That doesn't look that bad. I've done it. It's not that bad.
I think one of the best parts about the movie is just how much it makes. A lot like how some of the best Batman movies make Gotham sort of a character within itself. Mm-hmm. Within the Rocky series, especially Rocky 1 specifically, Philly feels like its own character. Seeing some of, like, the streets that Sylvester Stallone walks down, and like you said, the art museum, and seeing just some of the apartment complexes,
the bridges, the bays.
Yeah, it just makes you like, especially like Philly people here, we just feel like, I know that place. I can go to that place. I can go to that place within like 20 minutes. It's like what Hustle and Shazam would get glimpses of. Rocky was the pioneer of just Philadelphians just being proud of their city.
These aren't extras. These are literally locals.
Exactly. That's what I feel like the entirety of the movie.
Nobody in that bar. Nobody in the bar was an actor.
Yeah, I'm 90% sure there weren't really extras in the movie. Of course, there were extras, but I'm 90% sure most of them weren't extras. They were just people on the street that Sylvester Stallone just talked to.
Like, they were not actors, they were not extras, they were friends and locals. Like,
Yeah.
that bar was all, oh, those are regulars. They know how to talk.
Yeah, and one of my favorite parts about the movie, apart from just the Philadelphia just just patriotism of it all is the acting and the writing and the directing, especially considering the fact that, especially for Sylvester Stallone, this was his first big movie.
This was his writing breakout.
In terms of just writing and acting, especially Sylvester Stallone, this was his first big breakthrough, and he crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It felt like we were watching someone. It didn't feel like someone was acting in front of us.
Especially
the whole thing this movie sold was personable because it was literally down to earth. Some of the shots were filmed with a moving van.
One of my favorite things about like Rocky, and especially a lot of like older movies, is just how actors talk over each other in terms of their dialogue, and it feels very real, and it makes everything in the world feel very real, and you don't see that a lot in movies nowadays, mainly in like Uncut Gems, but the only reason that happened was to like build up the intensity of the situation. Here it's just real life, along with just the cinematography. We'll get to the cinematography in a bit when I'm talking about like some of my favorite scenes, because that includes some of it.
His apartment, that tiny space.
Yeah.
There's no set people. They didn't burn a hole through the wall to fit the camera or the mic. No, this was guys in the room with him with the camera.
Those turtles are legitimately Sylvester Stallone's turtles.
And he still has them today.
Yeah. Going off of the acting, the writing, the cinematography, I just want to get into one of my favorite parts of that makes Rocky 1 and even Rocky 2 a bit superior to most of the other Rocky movies. The villain, Apollo Creed. Mm-hmm. Unlike a lot of the other Rocky antagonists, Apollo Creed is not a villain, even though he's like very like business savvy and sometimes he does take shots at the underdog. You never get the sense that you hate this guy because Carl Weathers plays him with such smoothness that and such
charm.
such openness and such charm that you never get the feeling that you hate this guy, even when he's like coming out into the ring in the fight.
Like he's showing off. He knows what.
Yeah,
he knows
he's showing off.
worth.
He's like in a parade float, dressed up as George Washington, and then when he's in the ring, he dresses up as Uncle Sam.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing off.
Flag boxers.
Yeah, he's showing off to the crowd. He's showing off to Rocky, but you never get the feeling that no, this guy doesn't hate Rocky by any means.
He's his opponent in the ring,
Yeah.
but he's not like. There's no haste. It's like, oh, you're in the game. We're playing. Like we go.
Exactly.
We fight now.
Even like when he's like calling out Rocky, like, "You, sir, I want you." Rocky's just like smiling. He's talking to Mick. Is he talking to me? Is he talking to me?
Is he talking to me? Like,
Yeah.
it's
It's not animosity. It's playfulness, and it really does like set this movie
it's a
apart
sport
from.
they're playing. It's not a fight they're fighting.
Yeah, it's not like Rocky 3 or Rocky 4 or anything like that where there's true animosity. It's just people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
Clubber Lang's Social Vengeance or Ivan's like Iron Curtain release of the only war we're gonna see at that point was like, oh, here's the fight, here's America versus the Soviets by that time. You don't even have to set him up for me to like dislike him. You don't have to give him like the I want good PR look. He's already like I see his character. I'm not empathizing with him. I just know he's the opposition. I'm still rooting for the fight. Like I still want to see
you're
the
still
underdog.
rooting for Rocky, but at the same time, you're not actively rooting for Apollo to get bloodily beaten.
No, I just want to see like Rocky come out on top, but not Apollo to lose. It's hard to say because he's an antagonist. He's his opponent. We are not following him as much as we are following Rocky from 0 to 100 because Apollo's already at 100. We don't hate him. You don't have to make me hate the antagonist. He just serves as, well, he's going to oppose the hero no matter what, or the protagonist no matter what.
Going back to like the performances, along with Carl Weathers and Sylvester Stallone, there are like Burt Young as Paulie is just amazing in the movie. You can just easily see him as he's just a mean drunk, but the performance brings out so much sadness and humanity and pain. And like on this latest rewatch of it, you see like on one of their drawers there is just a picture of Paulie of like a younger Paulie in just like it looks like a military uniform, and you can grasp like some sort of knowledge from maybe that's where some of his alcoholism came into it, and you can just see that into his character, especially Talia Shire as Adrian. She is amazing in this movie. She goes from like this really timid like shy meek woman in the very beginning. And then by the end of it, she's like telling off her brother for being a drunk loser and everything like that. She's just grown into a completely different person.
Loud, outspoken cheerleader for Rocky too.
And especially Burgess Meredith as Mickey. He's so good in the movie.
I can't imagine not getting screamed at to be motivated that much by any other fictional trainer.
Exactly, and again, going back to that one scene where he and Rocky just go out into the road, and you don't hear any of that. Before that, as Mickey is trying to like convince Rocky that he should be his manager, that pure sadness in Mickey's eyes as Rocky just shuns him until he leaves. It's such a sad scene.
Like, I'm not looking at their writing, I'm not looking at the structure. I'm just watching a problem between two people that really care, and just not a misguided, but just a miscommunication like that. I feel like I'm thinking of these people. I'm not thinking of characters, I'm not thinking of the writing, I'm not thinking of the structure. These are just people I'm observing. This is the most, when I say down to earth, I really mean it feels just like you're watching
And
people.
again, like going back to that whole like natural bit in this argument they're having, Rocky says, "Look, 11 years ago I wanted your help and you never helped me. You have no idea what they're talking about, but you 100% know Sylvester Stallone and Burgess Meredith know what they're talking about, and that's all you need."
The first thing they established, which is the golden rule, emotion. They went first for emotion. They didn't go for anything else, not structure, not context. What is the emotion of this? Because that speaks to everyone.
Yeah.
We don't have to know what it was. We just need to know what the emotion was associated with it.
Lastly, before we get into like our favorite scenes and some of our least favorite scenes, let's talk about the music. The music, man. Bill Conti is such a master.
I mean, man, if I
Even
hear that
just the
song, I'm gonna start doing chin-ups.
Even
straight
just
up.
the opening like crawl of it, where just the Rocky title just scrolls across the screen. You just want to like sort of stand up and salute the screen.
We stand for the flag here.
Yeah, we stand for the flag. We stand for Rocky. I mean,
Hand on heart for the Bill Conti.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than the fact that that music, along with the Rocky crawl, is immediately followed by the image of Jesus on a stained glass window.
I mean, you know, Rocky, Jesus, I mean...
And even, like, some of the more quieter moments between the characters, like, there's, like, a little piano in the background. Especially when that one moment where Rocky blows up at Mickey and Mickey's, like, leaving his apartment. And then Rocky just, from outside, it's a wide shot, and he goes over to Mickey and he just reconciles with him. You don't hear anything. You
don't
barely
need
see
to.
anything.
So that's good writing, is I don't need to hear, or I don't need to get up close.
And all that's playing is just the music, that little piano.
The music speaks in those scenes.
Exactly.
Like that consoling, that wide shot of the street. We don't need to see their faces, we know. The music is telling us without being obvious and without being pushed.
Exactly. And there are just so many iconic moments from this movie that, like, people have joked about, parodied, and analyzed, and just
It's a
loved.
cultural like, monolith.
Yeah, the meat locker boxing, like we said before.
1,000 parodies.
Like we said before, running up the steps. Even just one of the last scenes in the movie, Adrian! So one of my favorite scenes, probably it is my favorite scene in the entire movie, is when Rocky is having a news broadcast about his training, and as he's doing that, Apollo Creed's trainer is watching the news broadcast, and he's starting to get a little worried. But while that's happening, the camera just pans back. It just dollies back, and you just see Apollo Creed not worrying about a single thing. He's just doing business along with the promoter and everything, while the only person that's slightly worried about it is the trainer just watching the TV. It's one of my favorite. It's probably the first camera shot that I can remember that made me think that is beautifully done.
Like, that's only something that film like that can achieve with that effect, and we can appreciate it when we spot it.
Yeah, it's. Are there any like big scenes, like not even like big scenes, just scenes that like really stand out in your mind as like, yeah, that's why I do this. That's why I want to be a filmmaker.
I'm thinking the moments that really had me like staring at the screen. Dark apartment when I forget if he's reading. He's reading something on his bed, and it's just the quietest moment in his apartment, or his row home. It's like so dark and so grainy, and I'm trying to read his face. Like just watching that moment. I'm trying to remember what part of the movie that was. It was probably like one of the like he's reading a pamphlet or something about the place, about like Creed or something. That scene itself, reading the emotion on his face was like one of the earliest. I'm watching a movie. I'm not just watching Rocky fight. I'm like experiencing the movie aspect of it.
And it's not just the fact that it's just the underdog story. It's just the fact that we also get to know Rocky's home life. Just the little scenes of like he wakes up and like he cracks the eggs and all that stuff, and he drinks the eggs, like, and that just the little tidbits in that scene like really get me to think, oh, this is real life. Like when he gets up, he just has to sit there for a little bit and just go.
The quiet before you get out of bed.
Yep, and every time that he cracks an egg, over that is just the radio in the background from his alarm, and it's like an actual radio show, and it's like, that's real.
Like, we're not watching a movie. We're watching, oh, this is Rocky's morning. We're watching a person now. Like, we're just experiencing someone's life.
Yeah.
And it's not boring either, despite how simplistic it is.
And I'm gonna be honest. I kept saying the fact that we're gonna talk about our favorite scenes or we're gonna talk about our least favorite scenes, but the more I think about it now, I can't really think of a least favorite scene. There is definitely like, I think you can like nitpick this movie, but in terms of like saying that a movie is a masterpiece, that word gets thrown around a lot. But in my opinion, a masterpiece is a movie that maybe you could like nitpick flaws, but overall there is no scene that you can like say that it is bad. Like The Godfather, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. 12 Angry Men, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. Rocky, in my opinion, is a masterpiece.
It's a classic.
I
think masterpiece and classic get thrown around interchangeably, but they are not interchangeable.
Yeah.
Rocky is both a classic and a masterpiece, because how do you master that kind of making a movie that nobody knows, has a shriveled budget, some of the shots were done with barely any lighting, like that interior scene?
Yeah.
I don't know how they achieved that, because that was on film. I don't know what effects they needed, what kind of exposure they were doing.
Yeah, when it comes to Rocky, there are so few movies that I can think of like that's a perfect movie, and Rocky was really the first film for me, again, that just rocketed my love of film. I already loved film like when I was a kid, but this like really put the nail in the coffin that, yeah, that's what I want to do.
If someone has never seen a movie, somehow, if they just never experienced that, something by Charlie Chaplin, something by Steven Spielberg, something by Quentin Tarantino would be like, here's movies, like here's what they mean, like, and then you'll see like it makes you like a child, like that childlike excitement, because you're not watching a story, you're just watching things happen.
Yeah, for me, there is no doubt in my mind. Rocky, the first one, Rocky 1976, is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. And of course, I'm going to give Rocky an A+.
Obviously.
Yeah, what are you going to give it?
A+.
A+?
I mean, it's not my favorite, but I know an A+ when I see one.
Yeah, this is an A+ movie for sure.
With a modern critique of the things that just weren't capable at the time, some snark might give it like an A, which is not incorrect. It's just you're not in the right. You're not aiming to critique. You're aiming to criticize.
It's like saying Rocky 5 is your favorite. You're not wrong, but you're wrong, and we'll get into that later.
You ain't right. You're not wrong, but you ain't right.
Yeah, so guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, what was the movie that first rocketed not just your love for film, it doesn't have to be a love for film, it can just be a love for like anything. What was the first film that made you like love your new obsession or what you wanted to do with your life? Yeah, for you it was Jurassic Park, right?
Yep, and for a lot of that, stop motion. Like that kind of all the movies that inspired Jurassic Park is what like the building blocks that I'm excited about.
Yeah, like the original King Kong.
Those OG claymation wireframe models. I thought they were the coolest thing ever, and seeing like that structure be used with an imaginative story and plot, it's magic.
Guys, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon down below for all things movie,
all things TV,
all things nerd.